In the town of Warren Valley, Henry returns home with his wife, Emma, after a long Halloween night. As they arrive, Emma decides to take down the eerie decorations in their garden, something she's never enjoyed. While removing the ghost figures from the lawn, she notices a strange figure watching her from across the street. Initially alarmed, she soon realizes it's just a young man waiting for a ride. However, once alone again, Emma resumes her task, only to be startled by a creature that jumps out at her. After knocking her down, the entity uses a blade to finish her off, dragging her body through the yard. The commotion causes panic among the neighbors. Worried when Emma doesn't return, Henry sets out to find her. As he looks around the house, he doesn't notice her arms hanging from the branches of a tree. He continues searching, and when he removes a sheet from one of the ghost decorations, he is horrified to find Emma's head, resembling a grotesque pumpkin outside her body. Earlier that evening, the group of girls gets ready for the Halloween party. When Lori mentions that she doesn't have a date, Danielle offers to help her find one and teaches her how to approach people. Meanwhile, Janet and Maria invite a group of young men to join them in the festivities. The guys agree and everyone prepares to leave except for Lori, who decides she will join them later. Danielle, though concerned for her friend, encourages her to have fun and be careful walking alone. Elsewhere in the neighborhood, mischievous child Charlie wreaks havoc on Halloween decorations. As he attempts to steal candy from a house, Stephen catches him and invites him to sit down for some sweets. Soon, Charlie becomes violently ill, vomiting before passing out. Stephen takes the unconscious boy inside, but when other kids ring the doorbell, he hides Charlie's body and answers the door. Macy, one of the children, asks for a Halloween pumpkin as part of a charity drive, which Stephen gives her. He then carries Charlie's body to the backyard to bury it with his other victims. While burying the body, Stephen is interrupted by barking from a neighbor's dog. To silence it, he throws one of Charlie's fingers in its direction, but the noise draws the attention of the neighbor, who heads into his garden. Stephen hides in the grave, realizing that one of his past victims is still alive. He freezes, waiting for the neighbor to leave, and once the coast is clear, he finishes off the young man. Later, Stephen's son Billy asks his father to take him to a Halloween parade, but Stephen refuses, reminding Billy that he has a date in a few hours. After Billy leaves, Stephen completes the burial and heads inside. There, he encounters his neighbor, who begs for help, but Stephen ignores him. Inside his house, Stephen takes Billy down to the basement, where they plan to carve Charlie's head into a Halloween pumpkin. Meanwhile, Macy and her friends continue to walk through the city, searching for pumpkins. She suggests they stop by a friend's house before heading to their final destination. While the others continue exploring, Shader talks to Rhonda and invites her to join them in looking for donations. The festive atmosphere intensifies as the streets fill with music and performances. In a nearby alley, a young couple is enjoying their time together, but the girl suddenly realizes she's covered in blood. She turns to find that her companion is a demonic vampire. In a panic, she runs, but when she reaches the street and pleads for help, no one listens, assuming she's just intoxicated. With no escape, she's killed by the vampire, her body left on the sidewalk among others who are sleeping, ensuring no one notices she's gone. In another part of the region, the group of teenagers heads towards the quarry. Along the way, Rhonda shares the history of Halloween with Chip. She explains that many years ago, the holiday marked the transition from fall to winter, a time believed to be when supernatural beings roamed the earth. During this time, her ancestors performed various rituals and human sacrifices throughout the night. After their conversation, the group of teenagers arrives at a quarry, where Macy reveals they come to honor the deceased. She explains that this is the site where several students lost their lives and begins to tell the tale of a tragic school bus accident that occurred on Halloween night years ago. Macy recounts that 30 years ago, a group of children was returning home when the bus driver took a different route, driving the students away from town. Instead of heading home, he parked the bus at the edge of a cliff, offering candy to the children as he chained them up. One of the students, terrified, managed to free himself, ran to the driver's seat, and attempted to drive away. The driver tried to stop him, but in the chaos, the other students knocked him down, allowing the boy to start the bus and drive it off the cliff. While the driver survived, Macy reveals that he was never seen again, and the bus still rests at the bottom of the lake to this day. She suggests they leave pumpkins by the river as an offering to the souls of the children who perished in the crash. The teenagers decide to use the quarry's elevator to descend to the lake, but Macy warns them that it can only hold 3 people at a time. She instructs Rhonda and Chip to wait until the elevator returns. Meanwhile, Lori, still searching for a date, becomes discouraged and gives up. As she rests, she receives a call from Danielle, who has arranged a date for her and invites her to join the party. Back at the quarry, Rhonda and Chip hear eerie howls around them, suspecting a werewolf may be nearby. When the elevator finally returns, they descend to the lake and witness their friends being attacked by a creature that quickly eliminates them. Desperate, Chip tries to get the elevator back up, but it won't budge. With no other option, Rhonda decides to explore for a way out. After a while, she stumbles upon the wrecked, rusty school bus. She notices the Halloween masks of the dead students floating in the river and approaches to investigate. Suddenly, a strange creature grabs her leg, dragging her toward it. Rhonda manages to break free and runs for her life, but along the way, she finds Chip's body being devoured by another creature. As she watches her friends fall to the monsters, Rhonda realizes she will be next if she stays trapped. She tries to flee, but during the chase, she loses her glasses and can no longer see clearly. With nowhere to hide, Rhonda is cornered and, in her frantic escape, slips and knocks herself unconscious on a rock. When she regains consciousness, she finds the creatures right in front of her and screams in terror, trying once more to escape. However, it turns out to be a prank orchestrated by her friends who were wearing costumes to scare her. Feeling guilty for scaring her, Chip approaches Rhonda to apologize, but Macy finds the prank hilarious and leads the group back to the elevator. As they gather their things, strange whispers fill the air. Soon after, Rhonda and Shader hear distant screams coming from the lake and decide to investigate. Shader urges Rhonda to stay behind while he heads toward the noise, but when he meets up with Macy, she insists they leave the quarry immediately, as she believes they aren't alone. The group then encounters the spirits of the students who died in the accident now walking toward them. Panic sets in as they flee from the ghosts. Sarah, still trapped by chains in her costume, is caught by the creatures. Shader realizes there's no way to save her and urges everyone to keep running. When they reach the elevator, they find it locked and beg Rhonda to open it before the monsters catch them. However, Rhonda refuses to help and instead abandons them to face their fate. Meanwhile, Lori walks alone toward the party, but she begins to hear strange noises in the woods and fears she might be followed. Suddenly, Lori is attacked by the mob vampire, who quickly immobilizes her and starts to bite her neck. The young woman screams in despair as the creature feeds on her. Meanwhile, at the party, Danielle is still looking for Lori when a body suddenly falls from a tree. Upon closer inspection, she realizes it's the red cape her sister had been wearing. As she removes the hood, Danielle comes face to face with the mob vampire who is begging for help. The vampire is completely immobilized, and Danielle is shocked to discover it is Steven, the man who had been hunting and eliminating several girls in the area. Lori finally arrives, joining her friends as Maria converses with the immobilized Steven. The group learns that Steven is a demonic vampire, and now they must make their decision. The girls gather around the campfire as the night reaches its peak. Lori prepares to end Steven's life, but as they do so, the girls begin to undergo shocking transformation. Their human forms start to shift, shedding their skin to reveal their true nature. They are not just ordinary girls, but mob werewolves who have been luring men to the quarry for their Halloween feast. Back in the city, a trio of children goes door to door in their neighborhood, asking for candy. But when one door opens, they are confronted by a terrifying creature and flee in panic. Later, Mr. C appears outside and calls out to his companion, revealing that the creature is actually his small dog, dressed in a monstrous costume. Now, with no more children disturbing his peace, the old man sits down to watch television. However, when he finds nothing interesting to watch and turns off the TV, he is startled by a strange noise coming from his garden. Peering outside, he sees a hooligan throw an egg at him. Mr. C decides to confront the intruder, grabbing his baseball bat from the closet. As he searches the garden, he notices his dog chewing on something in the grass. Curiously, he checks what the dog has found. At that moment, he hears screams coming from his neighbor's yard and approaches the fence to investigate. He encounters Steven, who claims to be repairing a pipe and digging a large hole in the garden. Disturbed by the foul smell, Mr. C orders Steven to finish the repair quickly. Afterward, Mr. C returns to his house. When he locks the door, the dog starts barking again, this time at the back door. Concerned for his pet's safety, Mr. C opens the door and is bewildered to find dozens of carved pumpkins scattered around his yard. Puzzled, he goes back inside, where he notices his dog anxiously sniffing the air. Hearing strange noises coming from the second floor, Mr. C decides to investigate. Realizing the situation is growing more bizarre, he retrieves his gun for protection. As he ascends the stairs, he calls for his dog, but there is no response. When he tries to turn on the lights, a child in a costume suddenly rushes past him, blowing out the bulbs in the room. Shortly after, Mr. C hears the dog's last breath. Despite fighting off the invader, the dog has succumbed to the threat. Determined to eliminate whatever is invading his home, Mr. C cautiously climbs the stairs. As he walks down the empty corridor, he enters the last room in the house, where he notices someone hiding under the covers. When he approaches the bed, he realizes it is a decoy. Suddenly, a Halloween pumpkin lights up by itself, revealing eerie messages written all over the room. The messages demand that Mr. C give his sweets to the children. Before he can react, a demonic entity attacks, latching onto his legs, causing him to fall to the ground in agony. The creature emerges from under the bed, revealing a knife hidden inside its chocolate, and begins advancing toward Mr. C. Desperate to defend himself, the old man draws his gun and fires at the creature. To his shock, it disappears. Believing he's alone again, Mr. C attempts to flee, but his injured leg makes it nearly impossible. When he reaches the stairs, he loses his balance, tumbling down the steps, cutting his hands on the shards of glass and sweets scattered across the floor. Determined, Mr. C retrieves his shotgun and charges toward the door, hoping to escape. However, the entity is closing in, and as he struggles with the locks, the creature leaps onto his back and savagely attacks his head. With sheer desperation, the old man throws the demon against the wall, stunning it long enough for him to escape. Crawling toward the window, he sees Stephen about to enter the house and screams for help, but Stephen, hostile and uncaring, ignores him, leaving Mr. C to be attacked again by the entity. Soon the old man is knocked to the ground. While trying to free himself, he manages to rip off the creature's mask, revealing that it has a mauve face eerily resembling a Halloween pumpkin. Enraged by the old man's actions, the creature begins to devour his leg. Using the distraction to his advantage, Mr. C fires a shot into the boy's head, throwing the body off of him. After reloading, he finishes the creature off, shattering its body with several more shots. Relieved, Mr. C rushes to grab his phone to call for medical help, but the phone's wire is destroyed, cutting off the call. As if things weren't bad enough, he's then stabbed in the foot by a knife. When he looks down, he sees one of the creature's hands moving on its own. Terrified, he kicks the hand away, but soon realizes his ammunition has run out, leaving him defenseless. Just when he thinks he's out of options, the zombie hand reattaches to the boy, who begins to revive. Now conscious, the entity begins to put on his costume and walks toward Mr. C, who is too weak to flee. Despite his situation, Mr. C refuses to give up. He grabs a glass bottle to use as a weapon, but when he tries to attack, the creature easily overpowers him. Just as it prepares to finish him off, the pumpkin boy spots a piece of candy dropped near the old man's body. After tasting it, the boy becomes completely peaceful and decides to spare Mr. C's life. Later, 3 girls visit Mr. C's house asking for candy. He hands them the treats, and they compliment his mummy costume before leaving with smiles. As they exit, Mr. C notices the pumpkin boy hiding in the shadows, watching a couple, Emma and Henry, who are setting up Halloween lanterns. Fearing they will be the next victims, Mr. C tries to enter his house to avoid witnessing their fate. But just then, the doorbell rings. When he opens the door, the old man is shocked to find all the children from the school bus, ready for another round of trick-or-treating. What did you think of this wild Halloween tale? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.